On the night Princess Sorelith was ordered to choose a husband, the sky above the imperial palace burned red with warships, and every noble in the Hall of Tides pretended not to notice. Because fear had become court etiquette, below the crystal arches stood princes, admirals, and heirs from conquered bloodlines. Each hungry for the throne that would follow her hand, Sorala stood at the choosing altar, smiling the way royals smiled when they were being strangled politely. She had refused suitors for 3 years, because a royal husband in Vera was never a partner, only a jailer in silk. But tonight the regent had cornered her. Choose a consort or lose the crown. Then the final doors opened, and a human walked in wearing a stolen officer's coat, blood on one sleeve, and an expression so calm the room forgot how to breathe. Some men came for a bride. He came for the funeral of an empire. He should not have been there. Humans in Vera were labor stock from the frontier, tolerated when useful, erased when troublesome. Yet he crossed the black glass floor like protocol meant nothing. The nobles laughed until the regent asked which kennel had lost its pet. The human never looked at him. He looked only at Sorelith, and said, "Your Highness, forgive the delay. 3 of your husband candidates are dead on the stair, and the 4th sold your fleet routes to the Dominion an hour ago." Silence broke across the hall. Then the throne guards rushed him, for elite warriors in ceremonial black, and he dropped them with brutal efficiency. No flourish, no rage, just broken joints, stolen weapons, and perfect timing. When the last guard hit the floor, Lord Keller, the smiling regent who had ruled through her father's sickness, stopped smiling when cruel men lose their smile. Truth has already unsheathed its knife. Then the alarms began. Red sigils flashed over the crystal ceiling. Orbital breach, shield failure, command breach. The tactical walls opened and flooded the chamber with maps. Prison sectors were unlocking, labor districts were rioting. Half the defense grid was blind. This was not one human with a death wish. It was a rebellion already moving. Keller ordered the princess seized, and in that instant every illusion died. There would be no wedding, only a coup dressed in jewels. The human stepped closer and spoke for her alone, though every chamber mic still carried him. "I am Captain Jonah Vale of the Earth Battle Group Rivenstar. Your regent sold 12 frontier systems to the Dominion, including the camps where my people were buried alive, if you marry one of these men. Your empire dies politely if you come with me. It bleeds, but it lives." Sorelith felt something old crack inside her. All her life she had been offered safer chains, softer lies, prettier prisons. Jonah Vale was the first being who had offered her danger without ownership. A loveless marriage can bury a woman, but cowardice can bury a civilization. She should have called for his execution, should have chosen safety, should have done what royals always did when the future turned monstrous. Smile, kneel, survive a little longer. But Sorelith had read too many casualty ledgers, had watched frontier families starve while Keller raised new towers in the capital, had seen too clearly that decay in a jeweled robe was still decay. And in front of her stood a human with blood on his cuff and rebellion in his voice, not asking to own her, only asking whether she still had the courage to matter. So before nobles, cameras, and the old gods carved into the ceiling, Sorelith stepped down from the altar and took his hand. The sound that followed was not a gasp. It was the death of certainty. Keller lunged for the emergency scepter. Sorelith moved before fear could return. She pulled the ceremonial husband's dagger from the altar and drove it through his hand into the throne beside him, pinning him there with a scream. That was the moment the princess stopped auditioning for survival and started acting like a ruler. Jonah crushed the regent's command ring under his boot and seized the chamber broadcast. Every public screen in the capital lit with his face. "Battered, human, impossible, citizens of Vera," he said. "Your regent sold you, your nobles fed on you. Your fleets abandoned you, but tonight your princess chose not a husband. She chose a war." The words struck harder than artillery, because they carried the one thing the empire had almost forgotten: Permission to hope. Sorella stepped beside him, dagger wet in her hand, and raised it for the city to see. I will not be traded, she said. I will not be married to decay. Open the prison camps, arm the docks. Bring every hidden ship online. Vera is done kneeling. Outside the palace, shields shattered in rings of blue fire, rebel craft screamed through the breach, striking drone towers and data spires with human precision and audacity. Below the terraces, the labor quarters erupted into chants, first scattered, then thunderous. Her name beside his, princess beside human, crown beside rebellion. The stars do not fear empires at their height. They fear the moment the broken stop obeying. By midnight, the marriage hall had become a war room. The princes, who came seeking a bride, were begging for transport. The regent was chained to his own throne. And fleet commanders across the sector were choosing whether to die loyal to corruption or live dangerous under a new banner. Jonah moved through the chaos like a man born for collapsing worlds, issuing orders, redirecting strike wings, turning riots into strategy, and Serlith finally understood why humans frightened old empires. Not because they were stronger, but because they refused inevitability. They looked at systems designed to crush them and asked the most dangerous question in the universe. Why should this continue when the first loyalist battleships appeared over the capital? Jonah came to her at the shattered balcony, smoke on his collar, blood at his temple, and said, I cannot promise you peace, Your Highness. Sorellith looked at the burning city, at workers flooding the avenues with stolen rifles and impossible hope, at the sky where old power and new defiance were racing toward collision, and gave him the only answer worthy of that hour, then give me victory. By dawn, the message had crossed every border gate in the Empire. The alien princess had needed a husband, the human had offered a rebellion, and together they gave the galaxy proof that surrender was not destiny.